Hello everyone and welcome to another really wild game from round 9 of the 2021 Tata Steel Masters edition in a game between Radoslaw, Wojtaszek and Fabiano Caruana. And this game features a certain move that has been discussed a lot as it... well, it's not something you would expect anyone to play, but in this game, world number 2 Fabiano Caruana plays it. So let's see what's that all about. So Wojtaszek opens with c4. He goes for the English opening. We have knight to f6, knight to f3, and d6. We have d4 and g6 now. Knight to c3, bishop to g7, and now, even though we've opened up with the English, with e4 we transpose into the King's Indian defense. We have castles by Fabi and bishop to e2. We have e5 now, striking in the center. So all fairly standard stuff. We have castles by white, and now Fabi goes for bishop to g4. And bishop to g4 is a move that no one plays here. Knight to c6 is the standard idea here. There are over 18,000 games in the database where knight to c6 is played in this position. But Fabi goes for bishop to g4 because he has a very specific idea here. So let's see what happens. Here, bishop to e3. You don't kick away the bishop right away with h3 because that's what black would want to. After e captures on d4 and queen captures, then he gets some nice development in with knight to c6, as black will use the queen on d4 to develop the knight for free. So instead, after bishop to g4, we have bishop to e3, and now bishop captures on f3, bishop captures, and e captures on d4. Now comes bishop captures on d4, and now knight to c6. Now challenging the bishop back to e3, and now there is one game in the database from 1998 where knight to d7 was played, but here Fabi goes rook to e8, and it is as of move 11 that we have a completely new game. The e4 pawn is pressured twice, but it's also defended twice, so not a problem there. Queen to d2, Radek develops the queen, connects rooks, as we sometimes say on this channel. They become bros for life, as was the term was coined in last year's PogChamps, I believe. Knight to d7 now by Fabi, and rook 8 to d1. And this is the position from the thumbnail, and the position everyone was weirded out about, because here Fabi played bishop captures on c3. And this is really weird because if you look at this position and you ask yourself, what is black's most powerful piece in this position, everyone will say it's, of course, the dark square bishop. Look at how beautiful that bishop is. It's cutting the entire board in half. Like we would gladly give up a rook to keep this bishop alive. But here Fabi played bishop captures on c3, and it's something that a lot of players would characterize as an anti-positional move. But nowadays, as we do have chess engines, the word anti-positional in chess kind of lost meaning, because today you can play everything. It doesn't matter how ugly it looks. If the engine says it's okay, you can prepare it and you can play it. And here Fabi makes such a move. Bishop captures on c3, queen captures, no reason to ruin your pawn structure, so queen captures, and now queen to f6. Immediately Fabi goes after the queen trade, and now that you've traded off the dark square bishop for knight, you kind of want to use the dark squares for attacking purposes, and you're not really interested in trading queens here. So queen back to c1, and now knight to c5, getting the knight to that very nice square. The knight controls the b4 square, so for the moment b4 is not a possibility yet. But now queen to b1, adding another defender to the e4 pawn, as now you have to do that, and also preparing b4 in some lines. So queen to e6, and now Radek doesn't go for b4 right away. He goes rook f to e1, saying that okay, even though you're attacking this 3 times, there will be some discoveries if you go for some captures. So here instead Fabi goes for queen captures on c4, grabbing that pawn, and now b3. Here Radek is preparing bishop back to c1 to b2 to grab hold of this diagonal. So queen to c3, we have bishop to d2, now comes queen back to f6, and now bishop to c1. And now finally this bishop will grab hold of this beautiful diagonal. We have h5 by Fabi, not worried about that one bit, bishop to b2, and now knight to e5. And this is Fabi's plan now. He says, okay, I have a monster knight here, and you're not going to be able to move it. You're not going to be able to move it unless you want to give up your dark square bishop. But if you give up your dark square bishop, that's like the only good thing you have in the position. So here, bishop back to e2, and now Fabi continues pushing with h4. And what do you play here? Well, there aren't all that many moves for white here, so Radek prepares queen to c1. He grabs hold of the f4 square. He wants to play f4, kick away that knight, and of course, well, not kick away the knight, just win it, because the knight will not be able to move. So Fabi plays g5. He blocks the f4 pawn, and now comes bishop to b5. And now this was most likely the critical moment of the game where Radek could have gone for some serious counterplay with the move b4, but it's a very long line, very hard to spot. b4 attacks the knight, knight e6, and now bishop to g4, made possible because the knight cannot move, it's pinned. And now after queen to f4, we capture on e5. Bishop captures, queen captures, rook captures, and now after pawn captures, you're gonna capture on e6, remove the defender of the c pawn, captures, and now captures, and we have an equal endgame with both players having 2 rooks and 6 pawns. So ideas like these are in the position, but it's very, very hard to spot, of course, and especially if you're playing Fabi, world number 2, you know that he has all of this prepared. It's probably not even good, so why even waste time calculating it? So here we have bishop to b5 instead, attacking the rook here, rook to e7, and now rook to e3. Just getting that rook up to the 3rd rank to help out with the defense. But other than that, there aren't all that many great moves, like we said, for white. Queen to g6 now, again putting more pressure on the pawn here, preparing rook, the other rook to come into the game once you kick away this light square bishop. And here bishop back to e2. So white wants to play f3, and he wants to keep an eye on that g4 square. We have rook 8 to e8 by Fabi, and now queen to c2. So what can you do here? You can just wait and see what black will play. Knight to e6, and now finally f3. And now you don't have to worry about this pawn being captured, but other than that, your position is shaky at best. Here we have knight to f4 by Fabi, and bishop back to f1. So adding another defender to the pawn here. We have c6, now preparing d5, and now queen to f2. And here rook to e6, just adding another defender here. We have rook to c3, not a lot of active moves for white. You have to play something. Rook to c3, and now Fabi finally breaks through with d5. And now what do you play here? Here Radek went for g3, and it seems like a very reasonable move, because after captures and captures what was played in the game, once the knight moves, it's a pretty good position for white. However, here Fabi plays d captures on e4, and now there's a problem, because what do you do here? Here g captures on f4 was played, but this is a terrible move. What you want to do here is actually capture this pawn, because now the knight kind of needs to move, and after the knight moves, now you can try and defend a little bit with rook to c5, but it's again, a disgusting engine defense line that I'm only showing because I know how much you guys enjoy them. For example, knight g4 attacks the queen, queen to d2, and now as this is being threatened, you don't want to allow rook captures this, knight has to block, and now you can just go bishop to g2, and you've consolidated a little bit. Knight captures on g3, you can now go bishop captures, rook captures, you can go rook captures, and after rook captures, finally you get queen to d8 with check. If you go here, then a lot of things are possible. You can bring the rook to d6 if the king moves to h7, then let's say rook to d7, and it's a pretty crazy position. Black is of course better, but white is at least fighting. However, after d captures on e4, Radek did not go for this. He said, alright, either this works or it doesn't. But now comes g captures on f4 with a discovered check. And I think it was around this point that Peter Leko said that the position is so lost, it's hard to say anything. And that is in fact true, because what do you play here? Here, queen to g2, blocking check, and also trading, forcing a queen trade. But now comes e captures on f3, and now you cannot capture the pawn because it's defended by the knight, so you have to trade queens here. Captures, we have rook captures with check, and now king to h1, and now Fabi goes f2. So what do you play? Rook to g1 is coming, then the other rook can come, for example, well, to h6, but a lot of other checkmating patterns are possible. So here bishop to h3 was played by Radek, but now the position is still completely lost. Feel free to pause the video here and win the game for Fabi in the quickest way possible while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the incredibly hard move to spot. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's knight to c4. This is just a beautiful idea, attacking the bishop. The bishop is undefended, but also going for rook to e1 check. And there is no way for you to defend against both of these threats. So here in the game, rook captures on c4 was played, but now Fabi just played rook to e1 with check, and it was in this position on move 39, just before reaching time control, that Fabiano Caruana won the game, or rather Radoslaw Wojtaszek resigned the game. Why do you resign here? Well, you either lose a whole rook, or you capture it and then you're just getting checkmated. You bring the queen into the game, and now whatever you play, let's say king h2, queen to g1, will be checkmate. So yeah, after queen to e1, Radek resigned, and a wonderful victory for Fabiano Caruana, who may or may not have joined the leaders of the tournament. But we're going to show one more game that was decisive from round 9, Anish Giri versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and only then we will show the standings. So prepare for one more game, but I'm probably going to upload that one, tomorrow morning. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and that you now see that even though at some point in chess history moves like bishop captures on c3 would have been considered extremely anti-positional, if you played this, like if you were a grandmaster, I don't know, some 50 years ago, and let's say Botvinnik saw you play this, he'd be like, oh, this person should never play chess again. I mean, you do not play that. But nowadays, with the appearance of chess engines, absolutely everything is possible. So yeah, always think outside of the box, and engines are our friends, whether we like it or not. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Alejo Aluralde, Christian Herzig, Carlota Baltes, Amar Alibrahim, and Henry Mortensen for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Tata Steel 2021, checking up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.